Ellie, and sorry, I'm British. Wait, what am I apologising for today?
Is it true you Brits tip every time you go out for meal?
In some cases this is true. Tipping is part of British culture and seen to us Brits as a polite way to show gratitude to others who provide a service to you. Now I've heard in China there's a non-tipping culture, hence why it's complicated for travellers and new citizens to understand how much to tip in the UK. And that's why I'm here to help. So you might ask when to tip. We Brits normally tip when eating out, but only in a sitting down restaurant, not fast food. We also tip taxi drivers, hotel connoisseurs and door staff. You might also find tipping jars on the bar counter in a pub, but that's completely up to you because it can be quite a cute, nice way of flirting with the bartender, if you know what I mean.
How much tip should I leave?
Well, research revealed that 87% of Brits always give an average of £4.18 tip at a restaurant. But before we go deep, do you know what tip stands for? Have you ever been to a restaurant in London and there's been confused with the words service charges, tips, gratuities? Don't worry, let me explain. Now, a service charge is the amount added to the bill by the restaurant. It's usually about 12.5% in most restaurants in the UK. It's normally been recognised as tipping, however, might be controversial since it's not directly going to the staff, but to the restaurant. A tip or gratuity, on the other hand, is a voluntary payment given over and above the amount as the bill and as a personal reward from you to the waiting staff. Tips are left in cash, whereas gratuities are payments made electronically through a card payment terminal. Because it's quite complicated and confusing to understand what all these words stand for and where the money goes, even for us Brits it's natural to feel a bit awkward when the bill arrives. You know, on one hand, most people feel like they need to leave a nice enough tip to show appreciation, but on the other hand, they feel it's forced upon them to do so, since they've already paid for the meal and service, and then they might be seen as being stingy or even sometimes rude to the server who has done a good job, especially if you don't have enough money or change for them. But between me and you, I just leave £1 or £2 just to save the awkwardness. It's very British. Not tipping can sometimes be seen as rude. However, if the service charge says discretionary or suggested, you can choose not to pay it without being judged. Also, if you had a bad dining experience, for example, the food is raw, the waitress keeps you waiting forever, you can simply refuse to pay the service charge or not tip just to make a point instead of complaining.
Is everything alright with your meal there, sir?
No, it wasn't. In fact, the service I have received here on this day has been nothing short of appalling. I came here expecting frogua, but what did I get? Nothing that came close. I want you to stuff those geeses to within an inch of their lives, and I want to devour their disease-ridden liver. But what do I get? An overcooked hamburger. This is not acceptable.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but it won't happen again.
It better not. You can leave now.
What we've discussed only covers the situation in the UK, and it might vary depending on which country you travel to. In France, at the bottom of the bill, it usually says 15%, which goes directly to the restaurant. However, most people tip around €2 if they're happy with the service. And in Spain, service charges are very rare and not included in the bill. They also don't take tips by card, so it's always good to keep a few euros in your pocket just in case. Now, here's a fun fact for you. In Germany, the word for tip is des Trinkgeld, which translates to drinking money. And in France, the word is pourboire, which simply means to have a drink. Now, when it comes to our American friends, here are some common rules you should know. The rate normally starts at 15% as a standard and can go up to around 25%. That's a lot compared to the UK's average 10 to 15%. You're also expected to tip in bars, barbershops, hairdressers, where in the UK you are not expected to do that in these locations. You might be wondering why the US seem to be much more generous with their tips. This is because the minimum wage for an employee who earns a tip can be around $2 an hour, and they need a tip to get a decent paycheck, whereas in the UK it's slightly better at £5.19 being the minimum wage. Now, the best advice I can give you is if you find yourself unsure whether to tip or not, just simply ask your server if tipping is customary. If it doesn't feel appropriate to ask, simply round up the bill. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with bringing a bit of culture to the table by leaving something behind to show your gratitude. And who knows, you might make someone's day.
Thank you very much, sir. I hope you have a nice day.
You too.
What generous young man.
Now, what I want to know, what is the most generous tip you've given anyone? Oh, and if you fancy tipping me, I'll send you my details. Leave your comments below and don't forget to subscribe. Bye!
Cut!